In May of 2024, Betterhelp was forced to pay $7.8 million to its users for selling their data to Meta and Snapchat for advertising. These users had gone to Betterhelp seeking online therapy from their platform. Despite telling them that their data was secure, they proceeded to sell the same data to target even more users with ads for their own financial gain. If you thought the story ended here, think again, because this is only one of multiple controversies that Betterhelp found themselves in. And despite all of this happening, YouTubers are still heavily promoting this product, which begs the question, is there something they know that we don't? That's exactly what we're going to be looking at today, and at the end of the video, as a bonus, I'll show you the one thing that might just put an end to Betterhelp for good. But first, where did all this controversy even start? In 2018, Betterhelp was in the middle of their campaign run. They were on YouTube channel after YouTube channel, turning viewers into clients. They had a simple mission: to provide online therapy to those who needed it most. Although their mission came from a good place, the implementation screamed greedy corporation. In October of the same year, PewDiePie, along with a bunch of other creators, came up in arms to express their distaste for the platform. They brought to light issues with the platform that were downright exploitative of the users, and in addition, they showed how little accountability they were taking in anything. And because mental health is a widely crucial and fragile issue, it needed to be handled with extreme care. But this is not what Betterhelp were doing. After boasting how far much cheaper they were compared to physical therapists, they went as far as putting it upon the user to verify whether the counselor they got matched up with was even qualified or not. What are we talking about? I literally paid you to provide me with a therapist, and now I have to investigate them? What are we doing? This, however, was only scratching the surface. Another issue was the misdirected and fuzzy marketing claims that they made. Let me ask you a question. When it comes to you shitting and showing you how bad or inconvenient physical therapists are, and then side by side showing you how BetterHelp is better, what do you get from that? Is it, oh, BetterHelp is just an addition to physical therapists, I definitely shouldn't use them as a replacement? Was it that by chance? If your answer is no, then you, my friend, have been lied to, or should I say, you have been tricked. Deep in their terms of service, they clearly state that, oh, BetterHelp should not be used as a substitute for physical therapists. Oops, how did that get there? I'm not saying that online therapy is bad, I'm just saying that some transparency would be nice. It's not just after controversy that you're not rushed to change things up to be better. Come on, BetterHelp, I thought you were BetterHelp. I'm not gonna do that again, I'm sorry. When this became a huge thing on YouTube and Reddit, the founder of Betterhelp released an article responding to the claims made. Strap in, because this made me lose my mind. Before we do that, let me ask you a question. From everything that we'd said so far, is anybody saying that we don't like therapy? Is anybody saying that they're against mental health? Has anybody even said anything close to that? Well, keep your answer in mind as we get into this next part. Alan Matas, who is the founder of Betterhelp, released an article on Medium debunking the claims put forth against Betterhelp. He starts off by talking about how Betterhelp has been an instrumental and key life changer to so many people. A huge perk of working at such an extraordinary organization is the heartwarming feedback and emails we get on a daily basis. While other companies may show numbers like revenues and profits, the big screen in our office shows the latest testimonials we've received. I feel like I have to preface whatever I'm about to say with, this is just my opinion from whatever information we have, which is, remember, publicly available information. It's just what I assume and take from it. Or in other words, BetterHelp don't sue me. I've seen them go after other creators, so please don't. The issue that I have with this part is that not even those reviews are real. Or not all of them are real. As I mentioned before, PewDiePie was among the creators who came up in arms to express what they didn't like about Betterhelp. And in his video, he mentioned something that's very fishy.
If you go to BetterHelp's own website, their testimonies, they are filled with testimonies. Most of them starting off with text saying Joel was excellent, referring to their therapist. Alex has been so helpful. She is very understanding, referring to their therapist. Jerry is empathetic. Well, you scroll down and you find this guy.
Julian says that BetterHelp.com is a reliable online platform to receive therapy. It can be easier and safer to communicate with a licensed psychologist from home than at an office. A therapist of theirs, Lauren McCoy, is attentive and does ask the right questions. You needn't stay alone.
Jesus, you needn't stay alone. And notice how he says, Julian says.
Julian says that Betterhelp.
Who's Julian? His therapist is Lauren. Is he Julian? Is he referring to himself? Is he reading the script so badly?
From that piece of the video, I'll let you be the judge. Sure, they might have changed things over the years since this was all the way back in 2018, but is that a good picture really? Is that what we want to be known for? Since the only time that we come out to change things up or fix things is when we get caught for it. How does that look for a mental health company? Tell me. He then continues to explain how the entire drama started and paints the picture of how Betterhelp was just someone who was caught in the crossfire of something that they weren't even a part of. This defense is done so poorly that it comes off more as rage bait. So for this next part of the section, just try not to get rage baited. They found that although we claim our providers are licensed therapists, we have a disclaimer that asks users to also verify their counselor's licensing information. Of course, it couldn't be further from the truth. As we explain on our site, we have a whole team that makes sure every provider we bring to the platform is fully licensed and in good standing. Okay, I'm already losing it here. If that's the case and you have an entire team dedicated to verifying your therapist, then why do I as a consumer need to do the same thing? Like, oh, in case this goes wrong, we don't care. Not our problem, we don't care. It's super insane that I'm coming to you as a person who already isn't in a good space mentally, and you have the audacity to charge me hundreds of dollars and then still make me do your job for you. I'm paying you to give me a licensed therapist. Why do I still need to do your job? Why charge me in the first place? What is it that you guys do? As this issue became bigger and bigger, they removed that part of their terms of service and I'm hoping actually started doing their job. It's super insane that if this were to happen in real life, they would have probably faced some consequences, but because this is all happening online, not much happened to them. Yet, because later on they made a mistake that ended up costing them $7 million. But first, let's talk about the user experience. This is the part where we now come to heavily rely on the reviews that people had left, but because the reviews on their platform or their website were shady, I took to other platforms like YouTube to look for better ones. I watched a whole bunch of reviews, and as I watched more and more of them, a common theme started to show itself, and it didn't even have to do with therapy, although we're still gonna get to that too. A major issue that showed itself time and time again had to do with the billing. A huge part of Betterhelp's campaign has to do with how far much cheaper they are compared to physical therapists. And although this might be true, there's another part that they failed to mention. When you get to the checkout, something that you notice is that although the price is $65 per week, you don't actually pay weekly, but the entire month's fee all at once. By default, this cuts out a lot of people who don't have the entire $260 all at the same time. And the bigger issue is that the only time that you find out about this is at the checkout. They don't mention it in their campaigns, and $65 is just a marketing buzzword. This isn't even why I'm bringing this up. When you watch most of the reviews, you start to hear a common theme. My therapist didn't listen to me, my therapist was weird, my therapist was secretly judging me. All these people paid upwards of $200 only to not get value for their money. Sure, I understand that the system will not always match you with the right person every single time, but the common through line with most of these is that the therapist was not helping them at all. It's either them giving you some weird task that they say is going to help, or them not being of any help at all. On the therapist side, things are also not exactly the smoothest. It's been a long-running issue that the therapists on Betterhelp are underpaid compared to the amounts of work that they do. For a business whose entire backbone relies on these therapists, it's such a pity that they're still not giving them fair working conditions. The numbers of the pay vary a lot, so it doesn't make sense for me to dive into the details too much. But for context, from people who have worked there before, the rate starts from $30. From people who have worked there before, the rate starts from $30 an hour, and this $30 isn't even guaranteed. This means that in order to make the full $30, they would need to see 1.25 clients and 7 clients in order to make 150. Please remember that this number varies from therapist to therapist and may not be an accurate representation of what each therapist on the platform gets, but what it does it puts us in a ballpark of where this value is. They also raised issues that the work environment is most times overwhelming. They'll get assigned clients even when they specifically said not to, and will also get an overwhelmingly large amount of clients in one day, which can be mentally taxing for them. From some of the reviews, most of them don't feel like they have a choice. The biggest issue they face is clients canceling sessions 1 minute too. If a client does do this, they only get $6 compensation. From one, they said that they have to schedule 39 sessions a week to just break even. Over 40 hours worked with no compensation or benefits whatsoever is a common story that many therapists share. From comparing both sides of the therapist and the client, the question of whether this is all even worth it becomes highly crucial. This whole independent therapist thing also brought to light something else that wasn't being talked about enough, but is very important to touch on. Even now, BetterHelp still stands on their stance that they're not responsible for anything the therapist might say or tell to the clients. On the surface level, it does make sense, but in my opinion, because they chose to host the therapist, they should at least have some ground rules for when therapists do act out of line. As a client, I may get matched up with a therapist and they might tell me something that they're not qualified for. For example, diagnosing me. Therapists are not supposed to do that. That's not what they do, and even BetterHelp themselves have said this. To make it seem like I'm not making this up, here's someone who actually did get diagnosed by a therapist.
I suffer with binge eating, which I do want to talk to you guys about because I was officially diagnosed with binge eating disorder by my therapist.
I was officially diagnosed by their therapist. Okay, who diagnosed you?
If you guys have ever heard of Betterhelp.com.
Oh really? So you were officially diagnosed by a therapist. Therapists should not diagnose you, by the way, and BetterHelp themselves say that, but still apparently it happens.
My issue is that when things like this happen, most of the times we're never gonna find out about them because not everyone posts their life online. And BetterHelp does not record the calls on the platform, so when things like this happen, nobody's ever gonna know and we're never gonna find out about them. All this not to mention the therapists might have their own biases and issues that they may impose on their treatment with the clients. Their accountability problem doesn't end here. This next one was so huge that it almost cost them everything. On March 2nd, 2023, the Federal Trade Commission filed a complaint against BetterHelp for violating the privacy of their users. They discovered a mastermind scheme that BetterHelp had been using for years to make millions of dollars. What you didn't know is that all this time, BetterHelp had been leaking data to Meta and Snapchat for ads. When a new user signed up, BetterHelp said that they would keep this information secure. The user provided them with their information like email, phone number, and mental health details they collected through the questionnaire. If it were any other business, things like emails and other details are shared with advertisers, which is still not great, but taking into account that BetterHelp is dealing with mental health, even something like an email becomes a privacy concern because it identifies that user as someone who is in therapy. If it were a traditional setting, this information would be kept private, but because it's an online space where regulation is not in plenty, a lot goes unseen. In addition to this, BetterHelp never told their users anything. They collected their data and shared it like nothing was happening. They never mentioned that they were spying on you in the chat, collecting details like your location, what time of day it is, how long you did a session, etc, etc. And what's crazy is that when anybody dared talk about it, they threatened to sue them and denied everything. Yes, it actually happened. I know I'm coming off as a hater, but they're not making their case any better. It's either them exploiting their users, or therapists, or them not wanting anybody to talk about it. The crazy thing is, they were making a lot of money from this. From the same FTC complaint, they made over $720 million in 2021 in revenue. So it's not like they were cutting all these corners to try and become profitable. If they're willing to spend millions of dollars in ad spending on creators or maybe platform ads themselves, then it should make more sense for them to try and make their platform better. As fate would have it, none of this was an accident. The person behind this leak wasn't even a criminal mastermind. Half of the time, they didn't even know what they were doing. According to the same FTC document, in 2017, BetterHelp handed over their Facebook ads department to an inexperienced college graduate. This person would have entire control on how advertising worked on Facebook. Because they didn't have any experience on how to safeguard private information, they quite literally gave up user information to Facebook for them to use it to serve people with ads. You'd think that after BetterHelp found out about this, they fired him or put somebody else in charge. But no, instead, they promoted him to an even higher position. I guess the method worked so well that BetterHelp thought, I mean, it's working now, might as well just leave it be. How money driven do you have to be to turn an entire blind eye to this? And when somebody calls you out for it, you threaten to sue them? Are you kidding me? Is it that impossible to make money in a legit way? This is quite literally using people's mental health problems for your own profit and gain. Are you kidding me? Is there something that I don't understand? Am I validated to crash out like this? Please tell me down below. I really need to know. And what makes me even more mad is the fact that they repeat and insist over and over again that, hey, we don't sell or share any of your information. It's all secure. And then right after, go ahead and do it anyway. At that point, what's the need for a privacy policy? At this point, let's just screen record the sessions from the therapist and the clients and use them to train AI, because we don't care. At this point, we just don't care. None of this matters anyway. First the lack of accountability, and now this. As crazy as this sounds, somehow it still gets worse. From the same document, the FTC detailed how BetterHelp changed their privacy policy to fit what they were doing over the years. Yes, they knew. They knew what they were doing. They have to be. Allegedly. From 2013 to 2018, they said that they would use your details to match you with a therapist and to operate the service, whatever that means. November 2018, they updated it to say that they'd use it for limited purposes, such as to operate and improve the service. 2019, actually, we might use it for advertising. 2020, you know what? We don't care. We're using it for advertising. We don't care. So you can clearly see that it's not an issue of they didn't know what they were doing. And because it was bringing in such an insane amount of money, they didn't care to fix it. And I've only mentioned Meta because it's the biggest of the companies that were involved. There were other companies involved too, like Snapchat and even Pinterest. There are two key points here that I'd like to speak on and elaborate on. They're storing your data securely and sharing said data. I might be storing your data securely, but if I give somebody else the keys to my safe, hey, I'm still keeping your data safe, it's just that the access is different. It is stated that between 2017 and 2018, BetterHelp uploaded a list of 7 million details to Facebook, and from the 7 million, Facebook was able to match 4 million to Facebook profiles, basically marking them as users with mental health treatments, which they would then use against them to serve them more specialized ads and maybe even their friends and connections. I'm sorry, if this does not bother you, I don't know what does. Maybe this one with Snapchat does. With Snapchat, they shared emails and information of over 5.6 million people for the same advertising purposes and Snapchat's own goals. I want you to remember something, and do not forget that they do not specify what the platform can or cannot do with this information. And from Facebook's and Pinterest's ad terms of service, they can use the information provided to improve company products and for research, which is just a fancy word for saying, we can do whatever you want with this information. When all this came out to the public, BetterHelp turned to outrightly lying, saying that at BetterHelp, we're fully committed to protecting your data and will not pass any personally identifiable information to external entities, including our third-party partners. And then doubled down and said, your personal information is protected and is not exposed to Facebook. Period. They also used government seals to claim that they had been reviewed and confirmed to be compliant with privacy regulations, which was in fact not true. According to the FTC, no one had reviewed anything from BetterHelp, no government had checked them for compliance, yet they were using this seal to deceive users that they were. A few months later, the FTC released a follow-up detailing what BetterHelp needed to do in regards to everything that they had done. The order went on to forbid them from disclosing user information, lying about the privacy of said information. They were also told to delete and tell all the affected users that their information had been used for advertising. Another one was to redo their privacy program, for real this time, making sure that there's no ambiguity, misrepresentation, or any shady stuff hidden behind corporate jargon. To top all of this off, they were told to pay a fine of $7.8 million as a fine for BetterHelp and some level of compensation to the users. After all that happened, BetterHelp finally responded. I know I've been saying this, but this one, I'm not making all of this up. I'm not writing these articles. They actually did. But BetterHelp, in their response, said that this settlement, which is no admission of wrongdoing, allows us to continue to focus on our mission to help millions of people around the world, get access to quality therapy. Even after paying a settlement of $7 million, they still stood their ground to say that, hey, we didn't do anything wrong. And just because we're complying with the payment doesn't mean that we actually did anything. You can't prove anything. They quadruple down and still insist that they do not and have never shared any private information like member names or data from therapy sessions. Are we missing something here? And notice how they're careful to use member names, because they might not have shared the member names, but they did share the email addresses and the financial status of the same members. Isn't that just as bad? Sorry, I know I keep saying this a lot, but it can't be that hard to run a good business. I know it's hard, just it cannot be this hard. It's hard, but not this hard. No, pause. That sounds Don't clip that. The greed for money has ruined the corporate scene and society in general. Privacy isn't even a thing anymore. These companies are harvesting data off of us to just make billions from it and leaving us exposed and not giving a single hoot about who's getting affected. So BetterHelp is bad. They have a lot of issues and things to work on, and if they chose to work on them, it would take a while for sure. But if they wanted to, they would. They're not some poor company. They're owned by $1 billion corporation, Teladoc, which hasn't been doing well the past 5 years. They lost 95% of their stock, but if they wanted to change, they would. So I'm not giving them any credit here because they're not trying. But if this is the path that they chose, well, their fate is already sealed. Subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, see ya.